Hey everybody, I'm Rosalyn Dennett, and welcome to Season 4 of Refocus. Each episode, I'm joined by incredible guests from all areas of the music industry for real and informative conversations with a focus on folk. Hello and welcome to Refocus. Today, our guest is Logan Staats. Mohawk folk and soul musician Logan Staats began as a diamond in the rough on the streets of Brantford, Ontario. He had no formal musical training, just a good ear and raw lyrical talent. He played the local circuit for years before his 2015 debut released Goodbye Goldia, an unvarnished yet hard-hitting folk album. He went on to win CTV's The Launch in 2018, gaining commercial success and touring North America and Europe. But traveling the world can really open your eyes to what's going on right at home, and the fight for Indigenous sovereignty has become a focal point for Staats in recent years. It all intermingles with the music, the passion, the rage, the love, and most of all, the healing. He's making road tripping music for those traveling the red road, a path towards reconnecting and relearning Indigenous ways. This is the philosophy behind his sophomore album, A Light in the Attic, released in 2023. These songs are healing salve, contemplatively composed and offered to listeners in need of comfort. Nowadays, he's gearing up for his newest release, a soulful Americana album set to be released in the fall of this year. Welcome, Logan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, so excited to chat with you. I feel like we've crossed paths many times. We've been in the same room many times, but we've never got a chance to sit down and have a real chat. So this is a real treat for me.
Me too. Thank you so much.
So let's talk about the new album because my interest is peaked there. You say it's coming out in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Working on titles. You mentioned that it's a bit of a departure from the stuff that you've previously done. What is the inspiration for the departure and where are you taking us on this next recording?
My last couple albums, have been more of an indie folk, acoustic kind of vibe, and I really wanted to just go outside of that realm. And the closest thing that I could think of that felt right, that felt authentic was kind of like a more Americana kind of sound, a more kind of country sound. So I thought the best way to do that and the best way to kind of learn and absorb, that sound was to go to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So for the last year, I've been back and forth from Six Nations to Nashville, writing, learning, performing, soaking it up in every way that I can. So I've spent a lot of time in Nashville over the last year, writing this record, writing new songs, honing my craft as a songwriter, and having that kind of Nashville sound and vibe rub off on the way that I write songs.
And how did you get connected to folks to co-write with? Was that set up by the label or did you find these folks on your own? How was that set up for you?
It was all sorts of different ways. I had the label set some stuff up. I worked very closely with SoCan to set up some writing sessions. I worked very, very closely with different organizations from Canada. But then also, throughout my travels there in Nashville, I just met some amazing songwriters and all of the co-writes that I did were really amazing. And I learned so much from them and got so many great songs. But it was like really the people that I organically bumped into in Nashville that I feel like I wrote the best songs with. I met a songwriter who was playing in a boot shop named Patrick Wiley Russell. And me and him just clicked, So every time I go to Nashville, I go see Pat. We crank out a couple different songs, and if I don't use them for myself, they've been getting used in other spaces too. It's been really cool to go down there and to soak all of that up, all that magic up, and learn as much as I can, and then watch how it kind of, the whole journey imprints itself on my writing style.
Met at a boot shop. That's like the most romantic
Right?
Nashville co-write
Right.
story I've ever heard. That's so good. Had you done co-writes before and were you like nervous about that? I feel like you need to be in the zone maybe or like really comfortable like sharing to get into that mode where you're able to collaborate with folks.
Yeah, I've done some co-writing, like when I did The Launch in 2018, it was kind of the first time I went to Nashville and started throwing my weight around, and I met some really great people and did some co-writes, but I've always kind of in the co-write situation felt like, especially when you're in the big city of Nashville, I kind of felt like I needed to take a back seat and just kind of learn, and now this time around going to Nashville after having two records and I'm a little bit more confident. So I'm able to get in those rooms and just feel more confidence in my ideas, in my lyrics, in my writing, in the melodies that I have a knack for finding. So it's been a way, it's been an interesting adventure, to find the right people to co-write with. I
Mhm.
think that's so important. And finding people that really understand you, understand the way that you want to write music, and are in a way cut from the same cloth.
I was wondering if the folks like, did you connect with any other Indigenous songwriters when you were in Nashville, or do you feel like you're writing from your Indigenous perspective and it is thematic in the music that you're making? Was it important to you to connect specifically with other Indigenous songwriters, and did that come into play there?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, it was a very rare occurrence for me to meet another Indigenous artist in Nashville. And believe me, I tried. And it just like there wasn't many musicians in Nashville that were Indigenous, like the history of Nashville and the Cherokee people is like, you can kind of feel it when you're in Nashville a little bit, And the one really, really good thing was during the Americana Fest. Ishko Day did an Indigenous showcase, and all sorts of different artists from Nashville, surrounding Nashville areas who were native came through and played the event. So I met some people, built some relationships with folks out there, but I am yet to explore that avenue as far as writing music.
And you mentioned that, you felt like in the beginning of that co-writing time or when you first started that you felt like you had a lot to learn. Were there any like specific lessons that you took out of that time that you'd like to share with folks?
Yeah, I think it's just to like really, really believe in yourself and your own writing ability when you go there because it's so easy to get swept up in like, oh my God, I'm in Nashville. This is like the place of the best songwriters in the world. But there's a reason that we're there. And my advice is to just like not lose yourself completely in it and take those lessons that you learn from those big, huge Nashville writers and implement them into what works for you. Don't let it take over. Don't go to Nashville and come back with a, Southern accent. Like go there, learn, and apply that to your writing style and your music style.
We were mentioning during like the showcase at Americana, and recently I know you were out with some of the Folk Canada team too, as well as Indigenous Music Summit and the Ishkade team at Fluvial in Chile. What was that experience like at Fluvial? And did you feel like you were able to connect to that market and to the folks working there?
Yeah, that what to me was one of my favorite little adventures that I've been on. I also got to bring my family with me.
Oh,
You know,
amazing.
so I had my little daughter, I had my partner, and we got to do a lot of exploring around Chile, which was huge for me. The festival itself was like, it was such a unique and great experience. And getting on stage was a little intimidating because it's like there's this language barrier. But the festival did a really, really good job of like having translators there and keeping everyone really in touch with the singer-songwriters or whoever was performing. So each time I played, I would tell the story of the song, and then the translator would tell the story to the crowd of the song that I was playing. So that was really, really helpful. And then aside from that, like music is just this kind of thing, this universal language, right? And that was really evident. For the first time, I was like, yeah, like I'm seeing it in action, like people are really, really vibing and really, really enjoying not only my music, but the other artists, that were there from Canada, and the language barrier didn't really seem to be a thing. Everybody was enjoying themselves. Everybody was dancing and everybody was crying.
That's encouraging because especially like right now when given the political climate with the US, and I know it's a lot of artists and music companies are just like looking for other markets, and they might be intimidated by going to a market in the language that they don't speak. So that's really encouraging to know that there's connection possible there.
Yeah, especially for me, because I'm such like a storytelling, lyrical guy. My music is very little about the music when I play solo by myself. It's my stories and my voice, and I was worried about that, but people enjoyed it, and it felt like I really, really connected. And, I can't wait to eventually, hopefully, go back.
Great. The bio talked a lot about the traveling that you've done, especially since 2018. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how you stay grounded while you're out there on the road and what these journeys have been like for you.
Yeah, it's shifted over the years. I've been doing this for 20 years. My main thing in my life on the road now is like sobriety, and no drinking and no partying on the road. That's like just really, really helped my mental health and my clarity when I'm on stage. And, that's a big part of it. Exercise and just like maintaining my training schedule, eating as healthy as I can, is super important for me. Also, I think the biggest part for me is I bring my family with me. When I am in these spaces, when I am at shows, my little daughter's there and my partner is there. And that makes it so much more fun and such a different thing than it normally has been in the past. It's usually like being alone in your hotel room. But now I'm able to bring my family and they're able to experience, these new places and go on a little adventures with me. And that is the biggest part of keeping me grounded and keeping me healthy, is just like having my family with me by my side.
Amazing. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about that for a second, because I know it's something that folks struggle with, especially the isolation and being away from your family or being away from your loved ones. And there's like logistic things about taking your family on the road with you. And I feel like when I picture like taking family on the road, I picture like your Sheryl Crow with like a giant tour bus, and you can have your nannies on the bus taking care of the kids or something. Like, as a musician signed to an independent label, who I assume is not on like a massive tour bus with nannies, like how do you make it work? Can your family come into venues with you? Like, how are you navigating it?
Well, the first thing is me and my partner are like such a great team together. Like she handles so much of like the road management side of my career, and does such an amazing job of keeping me organized and keeping our lives organized, and I would not be able to do anything without my partner, like really, really, really steering the ship while I'm like in my creative zones and so she's keeping everything organized, and whenever I'm talking to a festival or someone or a promoter, I always say that it's like very, very important for me to have my road manager there with me, so that's part of that part that's kind of worked into the deal before the shows happen, is like making sure she can travel with me, making sure that that's covered. And most of the times when I play, it's like they're flying me in, they're flying me out to play, and there's usually an accommodation included in the festival performance or package, so if my family can't come to the venue with me and there isn't a little space for like a green room, then they just kind of wait it out and wait for me at the hotel or go to a park or do something on their own for the night, but they're always really close by.
Do you feel like it's changed the way that you tour in terms of like how you're relating to others or how you're kind of relating to yourself in that way?
There's definitely been a shift, like there's
Mhm.
definitely been a shift like since my last album. And it's just like I'm even in the writing, like the songs that I'm writing aren't as sad. I'm writing happier songs, believe it or not. So I think that it shifted, like people are normally used to me just singing these really, really, really sad songs, so I think that emotionally things have shifted for me, and
Mhm.
health wise, I'm a lot healthier of a person than I was at the beginning of my music career. I'm singing about this process of reclamation, and I'm singing about this process of healing and going on this journey, this medicine walk, what I like to call it. And I feel like my listeners are on that journey with me. I feel like that's what my music is about, is, relating to people that are on that journey of healing, and there's ups and downs on it.
Tell me more about, if you can, that relationship with your fans and with your audience who are taking this walk with you.
My fans are in real time watching me, whether it's through the music or listening to me. They're watching me on social media. They're with me every day and they're watching me in real time go on this journey of just like finding myself and finding how to take care of my own well-being while being a musician, finding balance and being a father and being a musician. Like I'm just really, really kind of doing my best and keeping everything open. Like I'm very open with my fans and my followers, like, so it's just like I'm just kind of doing my best, and people are following along and seeing my journey in real time.
Have you heard stories from your audience that have been inspiring to you? Is there some like two-way communication there where you're also being inspired by the folks who are with you on this?
Yeah, I met people all across Turtle Island and built such strong relationships with people while traveling and playing music, and for so long, that's where I found my wealth. There wasn't really like a lot of monetary wealth when it came to music, but I was so rich in the people that I met and the relationships that I got to build and the different communities that I got to connect with, and I'm so lucky to do what I do and to play music and be able to connect with people like that. Like, I'm so happy that people are listening.
Yeah. And what's your connection like with your community at home then? It's a kind of I would say somewhat of a common thing for artists when you're traveling a lot. Sometimes it can take a while to settle back into home life. Like when you're not on the road, what's the connection to the land where you are and your community at home, and what's that like for you?
Yeah, I think home is the first place that ever really got behind me or my music, and I spent the whole first time of my career, like earning my stripes out here on Six Nations, and that wasn't just through music, but that was through many, many different, just like being involved in the community, being involved with our youth, being involved at Playing Back Lane. These are all ways that I felt that I earned my place here in Six Nations, and all these beautiful people that, back home, because I'm at home. I carry their lessons and their teachings with me wherever I go. And Six Nations, there's a sound that resonates from this reservation and it's special. And, like from Robbie Robertson, Derek Miller, Lacey Hill, like Jace Martin, there's so many amazing musicians that have come from this nation. And I'm like so glad that I get to be a little bit of part of that and that's embodied in my music, and I get to carry that and share that across Turtle Island.
You mentioned Robbie Robertson in that amazing list of musicians that have come out of Six Nations. And you were involved recently in a tribute to Robbie Robertson at the Forum, which definitely myself and I'm sure many folks that follow you were glued to our, screens watching, our folks down there repping. And yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about that experience and what that was like for you.
To me, that's like the biggest moment of my career, like the launch and all this crazy stuff that I've done. It's all been great, but to be up there with my heroes, Nathaniel Rateliff, Van Morrison, to be up there with those guys it still feels like a little bit of a dream to me that even happened, you know? I have to say so much thank you to the amazing Allison Russell, who like was
Mm.
paramount in making all of that happen. And it kind of started when she invited me the year previous to perform The Wait at the Junos, and then again at the Forum in LA. And I don't know, man, I played some big crowds, but 18,000 people, that's enough people to really, really make you like scared, you know? And it was really, really, really scary, really, really scary. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But then you go out on stage and you start to kind of like feed off the energy of the crowd, and things shift while you're on stage. And yeah, it just became so exciting. And I'm so proud of the whole thing. My favorite part was I got to bring my community's flag. I stuck it in my back pocket, the
Mm.
Haudenosaunee flag. And at the end of my song, at the end of my verse, I waved the flag in front of the whole crowd in LA. And I didn't really know what people would think, because it's LA and it's so far home from home. But everybody that was there for Robbie and, knew that he was from Six Nations. So the crowd like did this giant roar. It was like, and I was like,
Wow.
that's pretty cool, that I got to bring that flag on that stage and wave it in front of so many people and represent my community and represent Robbie in that way.
That gave me like goosebumps. That's so neat. And then just around that event, was it a feeling of excitement? Do you feel like you got a lot of attention from that performance itself?
Yeah, I feel like it snowballed into some really, really cool stuff, and some really, really great friendships and musical allies. I really, really got to know Nathaniel, who's like, I'm such a fangirl over Nathaniel. I've listened to all of his music since I was a kid and like followed him all around. And then I got to hang out with him, and he's like actually super, super nice, down to earth man, and he was just like, has invited me to some shows and to hang out with them, so that was like really, really cool to like meet someone that I've listened to all their records and become their friend. There's so many little moments that like are coming back to me right now. Like I had this awkward moment with Eric Clapton.
Do
like
tell.
like walking down the hall, and like we went to kind of shake each other's hand, but then like pulled away at different times, and then never ended up shaking hands. And then I was just like staring at him like a weirdo, Yeah, it was really, really great. And just to strengthen that relationship with Allison Russell, and get to know her as a human being and get to know her as a vocalist. And now she's gonna be singing a duet with me on my new record,
No way.
we were just able to form that bond, over, these few days that we've done all this Robbie Robertson stuff. And she really, really understood the importance of having a Mohawk artist in those spaces. And she really, really pushed for that. And she's amazing.
Big fan here as well. Okay, so Allison Russell duet on the new album. I'm even more excited. I was already excited for the new album. Now I'm even more stoked. Tell us a little bit more about what we can expect on the new record.
Well, you can expect like some really, really amazing collaborations. I was able to just like reach out to some of my favorite artists in the world and get them to come out and sing and play on the record. And I want to give a big shout out to the Pairs. They came into the studio last week and did like some really, really beautiful vocals on everything. I was so excited about it. And I guess just like this album is more of a full sound, and it's more me experimenting, with more instrumentation in my music, and more of a full band album, like my last couple albums were like Goodbye Goldie was completely acoustic. A Light in the Attic was like there's a couple songs with a band, and now this album is like, 9 songs with a band and then 2 songs that are just me. Well, I would like to say that there's a little bit of growth there, and me putting more thought into just the music, instead of just the stories. I wanted to have moments with the listener where we're just like grooving and we're just like lost in the music of it all together, So it's like all throwback stuff. Like, and that's the one thing about the record is it's like, instead of being just like country or soul, or it's like what makes it cohesive is that it's like all kind of old sounding and like kind of has this retro vibe and this there's everything from like old soul music to old blues music to old country music. And yeah, I'm just like really, really, really excited for this one. I feel like it's going to be one of my biggest records. That's what I feel. I have a special feeling about it, and about these songs. Like I have that feeling in my gut, like, oh my God, something big is happening, So
Wow, that's really exciting. Sounds like there's a lot to look forward to. Do you have like a release plan yet? I guess you said you're still kind of in the recording process. Are you gonna put some singles out? What's some of the
yeah, we're
plan?
gonna put some singles out. I think at the end of the summer, the first single is gonna come out, and we're gonna roll a couple out, and then by the fall, the full album will drop. My goal is for everyone to get a really good taste in their mouth before Juno submissions happen. I really want everyone to get a feel for the record and see how it does. And now working with Ishko Day and having Universal kind of there backing up the label and backing up the artists, I feel like it's going to be good.
We'll certainly be keeping an eye out for the singles when they drop. And I know a lot of folks are going to want to hear it as things are coming out. Where can people find you online? What's the best way to interact with you and stay current with what you're up to?
I think my favorite is Instagram, and that's like the one that I have personal control over, like my team helps me with Facebook and my team helps me with a lot of the different social media outlets and TikTok and stuff, but it's me on Instagram, and I think like you can DM me and I'll DM you back, and I like to keep open communication with all my fans and supporters, so I think that's the best way. I'm on all of the different social media stuff, but if you want to hit me directly, Instagram is the way to go. And that's also the place where I've been posting little sneaky, cheeky clips of some of the new music.
Logan, it was such a delight to get to chat with you today. I'm so glad we could do this.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you guys and everything you guys are doing, and thank you so much for having me on the show today.
That's all for this episode, friends. The Refolkus Podcast is an original production by Folk Canada. Find out more by heading to folkcanada.com/refocus. That's REFOLKUS. The podcast is produced by Kayla, Nezon, and Rosalyn, Dennett, and mixed by Jordan Moore at the Pod Cabin. The opening theme is written and performed by King Cardiac, and the artwork is by Jaymie Karn. Please give us a download, subscribe, rate, and review to let us know you care, and follow us at folk_Canada on Instagram to submit your questions.